Depression doesn't always look like sadness. Depression doesn't always look like sadness. Depression doesn't always look like the person frowning their face. Depression doesn't always look like that. Depression doesn't always look like that. Depression doesn't always look like that, okay? I remember when I got to college, and I feel like they really did actually take many opportunities to bring up mental health at Harvard. Like, they did a good job of that, okay? And they would talk about resources, and they would talk about, I can't remember what it was called, like Room 29 or Basement 23. They would talk about places you could go for like peer support if you were ever struggling with depression. They would talk about, this particular resource was terrible, but I think it was called CAMS, right? CAMS. So they had like a mental health center and everything. If you wanted therapy, I'm saying it's terrible. If you go to Harvard, please use it. Okay, please use it. Please use something. Or if you have the student health fee, then find your own therapist and then use your student health fee to like cover it or whatever. But anyways, let me not get off track. Okay, when I first got to college as a freshman, they absolutely gave resources around mental health, particularly around depression. Almost like they know that the Ivy Leagues drive people insane, because they do, okay? But many schools do. And I feel like in general too, so many mental illnesses, they develop at that age. Like, I know for bipolar or whatever, like it starts to show up around that age, around 19 or whatever, right? Like freshman year of college. So I have to give them their kudos. They warned us, okay? They warned us, and they proactively let us know about resources. But the issue is that you think depression looks a certain way. And because you feel like you don't look or act the way that people paint depressed people to look like or act like, you think there's nothing wrong with you when there's definitely something wrong with you. And then you don't get the help you need. And then you become the like open and shut textbook case of, she was so happy, she was so smiling, we didn't see it coming. And then you die. So sorry to say it. Sorry, maybe I should put like trigger warnings in front of my episodes, because they are really, I promise you, just stream of consciousness, like no editing whatsoever. So that's why it's hard for me to like put a disclaimer sometimes, because I don't know what I'm going to say. But I guess I will say for the rest of the episode, yeah, disclaimer, we are probably going to talk about like, suicidal ideation, like those kinds of topics. So if it's too much for you today and you can't handle it, please just click off, find a different episode to listen to. But yeah. But today I want to talk about this topic because I was talking to my parents about this, and my dad like heard me say this, and he was like, write that down. Like, you should talk about that in a podcast episode. And I've already recorded an episode this morning, but I'm recording one again because I want to talk about this. Depression doesn't always look like sadness. And I remember when I got depressed, and even looking back on like my entire experience being in like the absolute throes of, dealing with suicidal thoughts all the time, like a constant barrage of like suicidal thoughts, extremely depressed, constantly on the verge, basically. And if I wasn't the type of person that was really, really open with people, was always just like speaking into the void on my Instagram story about life and whatever, no one would have ever guessed I had a mental illness. Like it would have, no one would have even considered it. It wouldn't have even crossed their mind to put me and the word depression in the same sentence, because I literally have a resting smile face, meaning if you just leave me alone in a room full of strangers or in general, like I'm just like, you can't see my face right now because this is a podcast, but like I'm smiling, like just like a soft smile. Like my disposition is always positive, is always happy. If I'm talking to people, I'm always engaged. I'm asking questions. I'm a very social person. Like I love to laugh. I love to giggle. I love to make people laugh. I love to compliment people. I love to make other people feel good. Whole time, second that conversation ends, take me off this earth, like cut the camera. It's like literally. So it was such a night and day type of thing where like, yes, if you see me right in front of you and we're not talking about it, we're not talking about mental illness. And even if we are, I'm probably still like cracking jokes that like, frankly, should not be funny in my position. And after a while, my friends did not find funny because once, my like close roommates at the time, like really understood the level of risk I was at, they did not find those jokes funny anymore. But yeah, like I always am jolly. And frankly, if I'm not jolly, you're not going to see me because I'm going to withdraw. I'm going to spend that time alone because I never like to be the person in the room that's a bummer, unfortunately. And like, this isn't to say if you're the bummer, like don't leave your room because it sucks for other people. That's just like how I dealt with that kind of thing. I never wanted to be like the damper on other people's mood. So if I knew I wasn't in a good mood, I just wouldn't leave my house. And obviously, if I was still forced to leave my house, you still wouldn't really be able to tell I was in a bad mood. But for the most part, I would just spend a lot of time alone and in my room and just like hiding in my little dungeon. but I did not fit the textbook description of what depression looked like. So despite sitting through all of those, I don't even know what to call them, but like despite sitting through all those talks at the beginning of freshman year where they said, these are the resources, if you're struggling, call this hotline, blah, blah, blah. I heard all of this information and it went in one ear and out the other. And frankly, once I started dealing with like, these episodes and I started dealing with these like really horrible thoughts, it still never occurred to me that like I should go to these places or use these hotlines or get help from these resources, because I just didn't think of myself as someone that was depressed, even though I was experiencing some symptoms, because I didn't like fit the like, stigmatized image of what a depressed person looked like. I was constantly undermining myself, constantly negating like my own experiences, constantly saying, oh, it's not that bad, or like, oh, this just must be how everybody thinks, like this is normal, because it had become my normal to think that way. Like there wasn't a passing moment. There was not a passing moment where I wasn't thinking about it. And because it had become my normal, I was constantly minimizing the experience. And like I said, depression isn't always sadness. Like I didn't really feel sad because objectively, I didn't have anything to be sad about. Like my life objectively was great. And that just goes to show you again that it's an illness. It's like an affliction. And if you don't have like something that is lifelong, like bipolar is like a lifelong chronic illness, right? That needs to constantly be treated with medication. But for some people, like depression is something that you treat and like once, and then like genuinely it goes away. Like it's not for everybody something that is a lifelong thing. But again, I'm saying this like, it's an illness that needs to be addressed, right? The same way a common cold needs to be addressed, or the flu needs to be addressed, or if you get malaria, it needs to be addressed. So it doesn't correlate with what's going on in your life. Like just because you're rich and famous and your life is great or whatever it is, right? And you're super successful doesn't mean you can't get the flu. Like they don't go hand in hand, right? So in the same way, just because everything is going right on paper for you in life doesn't mean you can't get depressed. And that's why you see that like people say money can't buy happiness, whatever, right? That's a separate issue. But you see people, even people that seem to have everything they could ever possibly want and need, can be depressed because it's an illness that needs to be treated. And for me, at least, I can tell you how it showed up in me. Like I didn't feel sad because again, I didn't have anything to really feel sad about. I just felt empty. Like I felt apathy, like extreme levels of apathy towards the everyday. And it was weird because I could hold not in one hand, like I just didn't have a lot to be grateful for. I had so much to be grateful for. But on the one hand, I could be grateful for all of the amazing things in my life. At the time, I had a great relationship with my friends. I liked my college. It was freezing cold, but like apart from that, I liked my college. School was like, okay. I was like, I never struggled with my classes or anything like at all. So, and then I had loving parents. Like, if I had to, I was part of a sports team. I was able to walk onto the track team. So like, that was a really fun experience. I was super close with my teammates, had a great relationship with them, and was like enjoying that whole process. There were so many things going well for me, even like career wise, like for my resume and stuff, I was getting like all of these great internships. On the one hand, I could see and appreciate genuinely all of the amazing things in my life. And on the other hand, didn't matter, like didn't care. Didn't want to be here. If you give me the option to just like hit delete, control, alt, delete, whatever. Give me the option to just disappear today, I would still take that option, despite factually knowing that like so many wonderful things are going on in my life. So I wasn't sad about those things. And if you even asked me about those things, I would appear very happy and I would be happy about them. But in the very same breath, like, don't want to be here, still struggling with these like suicidal thoughts, still struggling with all of these other things. And it was just so crazy because I would minimize my experience all the time. And then I would have these moments where like I wasn't doing so badly, and I would go back and like read notes in my like notes app on my phone that I had written in like really dark times, and I'd just be like, bitch, how did you think there was nothing wrong with you? Like everything about this is wrong. Like no one should feel this way. This is not a normal way to feel. And you only notice that when you stop feeling that way and you get the help you need, which for me was like low-key forced upon me, and high-key didn't work for a long time until it did. And we're very grateful that it did eventually, but yeah. But anyways, why am I talking about this? Why am I making this episode? It's because I feel like, first of all, don't ignore the signs. Like if you feel something shift at all, you don't have to follow some kind of textbook definition. You don't have to follow how they depict it on television for you to get the help you need if your affliction is mental and therefore seemingly invisible to others, right? Like, I think sometimes too with mental illness or something like, let's talk about something else like ADHD, right? That's not depression, but like with ADHD, part of the reason why it goes so undiagnosed in women is because usually they present as inattentive instead of like hyperactive. So they're not disruptive. And because they're not disrupting the class, nobody cares to diagnose them. Nobody cares to figure out what's actually going on with their internal experience, what's actually going on with their ability to keep up. Nobody questions that. And because they're not questioning it, those women go undiagnosed, and then only later in life, there's some kind of switch in like the structure of their environment, and then it starts to expose the things that they've been struggling with, and they're no longer able to cope in a way that they could before, and then they finally get help. But the thing is, you deserve the help even before it affects others, even before it becomes noticeable to others, because I'm sure it's noticeable to you. And you deserve access to those resources. You deserve to give yourself a chance to be open-minded and say, you know what? I don't feel right. This doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like how I usually feel. And if this is how you always feel, but it doesn't feel good as a baseline, you just baseline feel terrible, but it's become normal to you because it's become your normal, that still doesn't mean that it's okay. Like, because other people don't feel that way. And the thing is, maybe it feels okay to you again because it's what you're used to, but that doesn't mean it feels good. And the second you don't feel good, seek help. And I'm not saying that like in this like mean, condescending way. Genuinely, like, seek help. Like, really. Because that help can be life-changing. And when you get that help, you're going to look back and be like, what? This is how other people feel? Like, I could have been feeling this way the whole time. You're telling me this thing that I just adapted to, this feeling I adapted to as my new normal was not normal in the slightest. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what Zeus is doing here. It's like he thinks I'm holding food. I'm not holding food, babe. I'm podcasting, babe. What do you want? Okay, he's my good boy. Back to the topic, though. I mean, I feel like this is a serious topic that we're not handling in a very serious manner, but it's because there's no need for us to trigger ourselves, okay? There's no need for us to, like, get sad about this. The whole purpose of this episode is to remind you that there is no picture of depression. And if I can tell you wholeheartedly, like, that I was going through like major depressive episode while presenting as happy and excited about life and positive and always smiling, like literally always smiling. That would be like one of the first things people notice about me is that I'm always smiling, with teeth, without teeth, whatever. And yet I had crippling, like crippling depression. That just goes to show you there is no picture to it. And stop waiting till you fit the picture to get help. Because if your ankle is, sprained or whatever, that doesn't mean you don't deserve to get help until it's broken clean off. Like, you don't have to see your foot separated from your calf to know that like something's wrong with it. If it hurts, it hurts. That's the truth. Like, if it hurts, it hurts. If you're in pain, you're in pain. And you should go and ask about it. You should go and try to resolve that. And I know people love to say like, oh, don't self-diagnose, don't self-diagnose. I knew my diagnosis literally, I think if I had to count it, I think I knew my diagnosis probably by like February of 2019. I only got officially diagnosed in like September of 2019. And let me tell you, the diagnosis was exactly what I predicted several months prior. And people love to say, don't self-diagnose, whatever. I just fundamentally disagree with that for many reasons. One, medical racism, so people misdiagnose all the time. Two, I mean, we don't even think about like the gender issues with diagnoses, especially with mental illness. Then, on top of that, getting access to good healthcare, getting access to healthcare of any kind, being able to afford healthcare, period. All very complex discussions, especially if you're living in the States. Then if you're not living in the States, let's say you live in Nigeria where many people don't even believe in mental illness here. Like, come on. It's not so straightforward to just tell someone not to self-diagnose. Sometimes you have to do the work to try to figure out what's going on with you. And once you start on that journey, you can then be an advocate for yourself. So then if someone tries to dismiss you or tell you to just like get on with things and that everything's fine or whatever, you don't seem to present the way they expect, whatever, but you still know deep down that something is wrong, you can advocate for yourself because you've done some research. So I would encourage everyone always to do research. And like, I feel like for me too, like having social media was so helpful because seeing other people talk about their experiences. And it's not just the little, like, it's not like the textbook DSM-5, this is how we diagnose this illness, but the little things that people deal with on the day-to-day that kind of connects people across the diagnosis or whatever. And you don't have one yet, but you're like, wait, everything is sounding a little bit too relatable. Like, that helped me so much with getting help for things that I was going through. And so I highly encourage you to do the same. And that wasn't even like me picking up a book or even going to the internet. That was literally just social media. And it's funny, like, if you talk to like my little sister who took psychology, like actual psychology classes in school, she'll talk to me about topics related to psychology. And then it'll occur to both of us, like, wait, babe, you didn't take a single psychology class. And we are both on the same wavelength here. And she like was, I think, one class away or something from like a psych minor or whatever. So you can get very well educated on these topics with social media, which is why I'm like, whenever people complain about social media, I'm like, maybe you're not using it right, because it can be extremely useful if you use it right. But anyways, all I'm saying is, don't be afraid to do some research. Don't be afraid to do the digging. And don't be afraid to seek help, even if you feel like you don't fit the bill. You don't fit the textbook image. You don't fit the movie media description of something, because usually that is exaggerated, or it's, demonized or stigmatized. And that can make you feel a distance. Like, that can make you put distance between yourself and help, because you don't want to be associated with those things. But the thing is, like, no one would be ashamed to say they have cancer. Is it a nice thing to say? I'm not trying to compare things, right? But the thing is, right, you wouldn't be ashamed fundamentally to say it, because at the end of the day, it's not who you are. Like, it would just be something you're going through, or maybe not to make it as, big as cancer, but just any kind of like physical affliction, right? Like, you wouldn't be ashamed to say you broke your leg. Like, you wouldn't be ashamed to say you broke your leg, because you broke your leg. So just like get help with the fact that your leg is broken, so that your leg will not be broken anymore. You shouldn't feel ashamed about it. You shouldn't. And like I was saying earlier, right, you don't have to wait for your leg to be amputated, because it's that level of bad, before you get help. If it's just an internal pain, it's just an internal ache, you still deserve to not feel that internal pain whatsoever. And it doesn't have to make sense to anyone else but you. This just made me think of something super chronically online. But if you're chronically online like me, there's that thing going around TikTok where this girl was talking about like buying 365 buttons to like keep better track of the days passing or something. And people were like, can you explain what that means? And she's like, it actually only has to make sense to me to do it. But girl, I'm so chronically online. Just ignore me, whatever. Anyways, you get the drift. Depression isn't always sadness, okay? If you're feeling off or down, or you're constantly thinking about just not being here, even if you just don't like put it explicitly as like death or dying, but you are constantly thinking about not being here, I wish I could just sleep forever, like, these are indicators. Like, you shouldn't feel that way. Like, I'm not judging you, but like someone feeling at a healthy baseline mentally would not constantly be wishing they could sleep their life away, okay? That's not normal, okay? And just because you're not frowning your face all the time, it doesn't mean you don't deserve help. And I say this because I know there's someone out there who might listen to this one day and they're like, yeah, you know what? Even though no one would pin me as needing this help, because I'm going to do this for myself. And I really want to encourage you to do this for yourself, because I was lucky and unlucky at the same time, in the fact that like my situation got so extreme that I kind of was required to get help. And then I'm grateful for that, because even though it wasn't helpful super helpful in the moment, like over time, without that push, I probably wouldn't have gotten there. But unfortunately, that also just meant I had to have like an extreme situation to get that help. But don't wait for the extreme. Like, you can take it upon yourself to get that help for yourself, to do that research, to reach out. If you can't afford the healthcare, then to call the hotline and see what they say. I've never like done that before, but all I'm saying is, there's resources, and I'm sure you've heard of at least one, and I know it can help. And yeah, just look out for yourself and be an advocate for yourself, and stop waiting to have a completely amputated leg mentally. Like, you don't wait till you need a lobotomy to get help. You deserve help and comfort and mental stability now, because it is so wonderful. It is so freeing. Peace of mind is so great. It's so fabulous. Okay, I could go on and on about it, and I love it so much. And I hope that everybody, if they don't already have it, they get it as soon as possible. And you deserve that ASAP, like urgently. Okay, I will try to find like resources that I can like link in the description box if you're listening to this episode, because why bring it up if I don't know anything? I don't know anything as I'm speaking currently, but I will look something up. So check the description box if you are needing help of some kind. Maybe that can be like a good starting point. And if not, then like, I know some people have like differing opinions on AI, but even if you Google search it, I'm sure AI will just give you an answer anyway within Google, but just like Google it. Like, I feel some type of way, help me. Okay. Like, and see what they say, but please get the help you need. But anyways, as always, thank you for spending this time with me on this little corner of the internet. I appreciate you being here. Today's episode was both heavy and unserious at the same time, but I just kind of wanted to get this idea out there. My name is Abi Amudo. Welcome to Live Lumani. If you're enjoying the podcast, if this is your first episode, or which episode is this? 15th episode? I don't know. Don't forget to follow the podcast and turn on notifications so you know when I upload. I always have episodes on the back burner, but I try to space them out a little bit. But I think I'm going to go with like a twice a week schedule. So I'll be posting from now on. Like, you'll see me Wednesdays and Sundays. You can expect that. So look out for my posts Wednesdays and Sundays. And if you just follow, then you should be notified when it happens. If you've been enjoying the podcast, this isn't the first episode you listened to, or you listened to this episode the whole way through, don't forget to rate the podcast. So leave us a 5-star review. Let your girl know how she's doing. Introduce yourself in the comment section, or I'd just love to learn more about who's listening. A lot of people listening like know me, or not a lot of them, but some of the people listening I know me personally, so you guys will just text me. But feel free to like leave, your feedback in the comments too. Maybe it'll encourage other people to chat, and I'd love for all of you to get to know each other, because this is not an echo chamber. We're building our little community one by one. And speaking of building, don't forget to share this episode with someone that you think needs it. And if you know someone who needs the help, because I remember when my friends were really trying to get me to get help, and I just was not like listening at all. But when I finally did, I just remember thinking like, oh, I wasted so much time not doing well when I could have had that little bit of help. And so if you know someone that like needs the help and they're feeling too ashamed to get it, or they're feeling just uncomfortable about it, definitely send them this episode. And I really encourage you to tell them, like, just to reach out to me, honestly. Like, my socials are all at Live Lumani. You can shoot me a DM wherever it works best for you, or you can reach out to me on my website, livelumani.com/connect, and just shoot me like a private message, and I can get back to you there as well. But yeah, like, you don't deserve to go through that, and I'm happy to talk through more of my own personal experience. I'm trying to like not completely overshare. I feel like in the past I used to overshare. So now I try to only like share the parts that are like relevant to what I'm talking about. But if you really want to go deep and you have questions and you need help with your experience or whatever, and you want to know what it was like for me, I'm happy to talk about it, talk you through it, and help you with whatever you're going through, because I know it would have helped me so much to have someone who was in my position talk to me back then. So if you ever want to chat, I'm here. But yeah, thanks for being here, and I will see you next time. Mwah.